We're up.
Parkins, are you ready, my brother?
Oh, there we go. Good evening, fight fans. I could hear the music, but couldn't see the video play. You gotta love technology still to this day. Welcome to another great episode of Headkicks and Haymakers. It is our UFC 305 preview show, headlined by the returning Dricus du Plessis DDP, the middleweight champion, versus the comeback if Israel Adesanya. Of course, joining me as always is my brother from another mother, Wit, and Bobby Blunts. But before, boys, we get into UFC 305, shocking breaking news last night. Dana has confirmed that Conor McGregor will not be, in fact, fighting in the year 2024. And Mike Chandler has finally maybe given up hopes and dreams of fighting Conor. We'll start with you. Thoughts on no Conor in 2024? Who would have thunk?
Somehow, some way, man. Oh, my bad.
Change the rape music, will you?
Somehow, some way.
Okay, there we go. Back to normal. So, the answer to the question is we should have known this the whole freaking time. Unfortunately, no Conor means we have to find a way to get John Jones into the ring. To me, this was one of those scenarios where it's unfortunate because, once again, as a fight fan, I clamor for nostalgia from time to time. We used to want to see those matches where, or we used to think, oh, GSP's coming back. Who would GSP fight? Somewhere in there, you want to go, well, let's see Anderson Silva come back. Way long time ago, you wanted to see Chuck Liddell and Rampage Jackson come back and have one more fight. We got a chance to see, and this is when I say we, I mean you guys, of course, who are watching it, and my brothers on the show. We got a chance to see the rise of something that probably nobody anticipated when we first saw Conor McGregor. So we still remember that first taste. It's like crack or something. You know what I'm saying? I've heard on multiple occasions when you try crack for the first time, you never have a bad time. I think this is very similar where we're trying to remember the feeling of seeing Conor McGregor rather than what actually happened when we did Conor McGregor. Like, I'm sure there were moments when people did drugs and had horrible times and did some horrible shit, but they don't remember what they went through because they just have the feeling. We feel like we want to see Conor McGregor, but we don't remember the last time we saw him. We saw him get choked out and his jaw nearly cracked off his face by Khabib. The time before that, of course, we saw him and him shatter his ankle. I mean, it's not been pretty, but we want to see him put on a show. We want to see the fight presses. We want to see the Instagram posts. We want to see him, pace in front of his TV and on Instagram too, and see how big he is. But we're not going to get it. So what can we get instead? Is it possible we get a John Jones, Tom Aspinall? We have to see something that's worth our I don't know what to call it, like bloodlust. Maybe it's bloodlust. Is that a good word? Do you think? But for me, I don't know, man. We were hoping for it, but we should have known somewhere in there. No, none, not at all. Thank you. Good night. Go back to Dublin.
Yeah. Bobby, your thoughts on no Conor in 2024? And I don't think ever again.
In the words of Nate Diaz, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers. I never thought it was a possibility. He was fighting in 25, mainly because the UFC was going to have to make another date for him. And they're not going to do that shit when, at least if they're doing it on a normal date, they can just sub it out. If they have to create a whole new date and then something else ends up happening, and granted, I know it's not normally in his track record for his stuff. It was kind of a freak injury, but, they're not going to create a new date for that. And, Michael Chandler knew what he was doing. Realistically, this is probably one of the few winnable fights for him. By far the biggest payment day, but just like matchup wise, it's like probably one of the better matchups for him. I mean, I probably still was going to pick Conor in that fight because Chandler's fight IQ goes out the octagon. But, at the same time, I am not shocked at all. My main event for December has always been Bilal Muhammad versus Shavkat. So it looks like that is still a possibility. I was thinking it'd be a co-main, but they're definitely doing John Jones at MSG a month before. They're going to keep him in New York. So, it is what it is, but I didn't think it was ever really a possibility. So it's kind of a non-factor for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Bobby. I thought maybe December after the pullout in International Fight Week in July or June, whenever it was, June. And I thought maybe it would be December. It seemed like because they didn't have a main event, but I do think that they'll probably lean towards Shavkat and Bilal at this point. If Dana's saying they're not fighting. Now, Conor did tweet out and say, December's the date, but I don't. I'm going to take Dana as far as I mean, Conor tweets out and says a lot of shit. And I'm kind of with you. I don't think we'll ever see Conor McGregor back in the UFC.
Did anyone else read that tweet in Conor's voice when he responded to Dana? Because that shit was pretty funny. Like, the things he still has is he can get me to crack up at least. And
he can still talk the talk. He can still talk it. You know what I mean? At times, yeah. Let me ask you guys. Go ahead, Bobby.
The thing I'm at is if he doesn't fight Michael Chandler, I'm not really sure who he fights. In my opinion, Conor needed Chandler just as much as he needed him because realistically, that's probably the most winnable fight for Conor too. So Conor's, I don't know if you want to call it credit, but he tweeted Dana, oh no, we've heard reports he obviously wants to fight in December. I just don't think they're going to do the date. I've heard a conspiracy that maybe it's because of the rights deal and stuff, but that could be something. But the way it sounds like they're going to branch it out into multiple different platforms, I think we'll see him next year. But the question is, will it be Chandler?
And that's kind of my next question to you. Do you feel bad for Mike Chandler? I don't know how to feel about Mike Chandler. I like Mike Chandler. It's funny you say it's just his fight IQ goes out the window because I think he's when he's in there, he could beat about anybody, but he just gets in there and just doesn't give a fuck, and then he just gets knocked out or put down. And it's he has exciting fights. I'll give him that. But you're right on as far as Chandler kind of needed. Conor needed Chandler. I don't as far as who would Conor fight. Conor can fight anybody because anybody would sign up to fight Conor McGregor because of the money. So that question I think is easy. There'll be everybody on the UFC roster would raise their hand to fight Conor McGregor. But as far as winning,
I don't think Conor would fight too far down. You're not going to see him fighting someone at number 14. I mean, I know the cowboy thing, but I think that's why they were kind of perfectly matched up. And, as far as do I feel
you could
bad
justify
for
if he beats Chandler a title shot next. Yeah.
But as far as I feel bad for Chandler, absolutely not, because he knew the game he was playing. I mean, he knew the risk he was taking, and it still very well might pay off. But eventually he's got to drop the nice guy act, and I think that's what that is. If Chandler does not fight Conor, I think he should try to rematch Charles Oliveira. That would probably be the most fan-friendly thing for everyone to watch.
And then it gets him right back in the title picture if he beats Charles Oliveira.
Yeah, I was definitely going to throw that out there. I hear you, Bobby, as if to say I don't feel bad for Michael Chandler, but he's been preparing to fight a particular person for almost a year and a half.
2 years.
2 years.
Almost 2.5. Yeah.
Almost two and a half years. I'm pretty sure, and especially in the beginning when he signed up to be one of the coaches on The Ultimate Fighter, the plan is after The Ultimate Fighter to fight, the coaches go head to head, just like we're gonna have the Shevchenko rematch. Shortly after they finally get finished with this season of Tough. I can't say that I don't feel sorry for him. I think that being geared up for, especially at his age, being geared up for possibly a fight worthy of saying, okay, that's it, or let's say maybe like monetarily, you know what I mean? Maybe monetarily saying, okay, I did something I never thought I'd do. I was going to get this type of bag. Maybe I can ride off into the sunset. I think it affects a lot of his decision making going forward. And I get you. Like after this one, I'm demanding somebody at the top. I'm demanding to go straight to maybe somebody probably good enough to be worthy of fighting Michael Chandler, with a name like Dariush or something like that. And then going, hey, look, I want the guy at the top. Like period, because you owe me 2 years worth of being put on pause. You guys owe me one. So it's a, I'm not going to say it's a sad story, but it is the story of thinking, imagining, dreaming, contemplating you fighting Conor McGregor.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm just an asshole. So you're right. That is all correct.
It is. It is. And I think, like you mentioned, the Charles Oliver. You could do any one of those 3 rematches that he lost, Charles, Gaethje, or even Dustin Poirier. I don't think Dustin would want to do that because he hates Michael Chandler. It's like he hates Conor McGregor, and we all know why he hates Conor McGregor. But I don't understand his hatred for Mike Chandler. He calls him Bootstrap Chandler, and all types of nicknames for him. So I don't know why, but I think all 3 of those fights would make sense if they rematched him up, and that puts him right back in the title picture, and that would be doing him a solid. If and they need it. The UFC needs to do right by him. I will say that the UFC needs to do right by him, but at the same time, Chandler's kind of dug his heels in at times and should have took a different fight by now.
Like I would not rule out with Islam's hand that they do Armin and Michael Chandler for an interim title. Like if they find out that he's not going to, return quickly. It's funny you mentioned DP, Dustin Poirier, and I think if Chandler doesn't fight Conor, I think that's the fight you make for Conor. I know it would be like
DP
4th fight. Yeah, absolutely. That would probably be the cleanest way everything could work, but it never works out like that. But I do think the UFC would definitely throw him a bone because they feel bad. On the bright side, he's made a bunch of money off that hiatus tequila. I mean, I can remember the name of the tequila. So I mean, the branding is on point. At least he got something out of waiting out 2 years, a good name for a tequila. And I mean, that might sound funny. I guarantee you he's making more off that than his contract in the UFC. So
yeah. I mean, he's paid, he's not making 12 and 12, but he's one of the higher guys, obviously, in the UFC. But yeah, you're probably right.
But that's why
it'll be interesting
for him.
Yeah.
Because this was his payday. Like this was the payday, and nothing's going to even come close to that.
In the twilight of your career too. He's not, a young spry chicken. Like he's only got maybe a handful of fights left in him. Let's go ahead. We'll transition here into the main course here, and that's UFC 305. Again, headlined by DDP, the middleweight champion, won the title back in January, a close fight with Sean Strickland. Some people think even Sean won. I can't remember. Like it happened so long. It was January, seemed so long ago. I can't remember how I scored that fight. I do remember it was a close fight. I could have went either way. I'd have to go back and rewatch it. Against Israel Adesanya. It's almost been exactly 1 year ago since that loss to Sean Strickland, September of last year is when he lost his title. First, before we start looking at this fight, let me ask you guys, Bobby, I'll start with you. Does Izzy even deserve? A lot of people don't feel like he deserves this title fight based off his last few outings. Remember, he was lost to Alex, won, lost. Now he's back in there again.
Yeah, I hate using the word deserved in the UFC because it never like plays out like that. It did not shock me at all that they gave it to him. I just rewatched the Strickland Duplessis fight, and at the time when I watched it, I scored it rounds 1, 2, and 5 for Sean. Upon rewatch, I have the same opinion, but at the same time, I don't think he got robbed or anything like that. So it does not shock me at all that they're going the other way in that. But as far as if Izzy deserves it, I don't really have an issue with it. I know a lot of people do. I would have preferred they ran back Strickland first because I did think he won the fight. But at the same time, I'm not really mad at this because Strickland set up to face the winner anyways. So I do think it kind of dampened the hype for this fight. Like, a lot of people were hyped on it when Izzy was the champ.
And they got in the ring, the octagon. Yeah, that was kind of where I felt the same way. I feel like there's not a lot of buzz in going into this fight like it would have been a year ago. Like, had this fight been a year ago after they faced off in the octagon when they brought Izzy in and Izzy was trying to bait DDP to say the N-word, and DDP didn't take it, but he definitely tried to get him. But with your thoughts here, do you feel like, and I'll say this before you go, if it's not Izzy and it was Sean or somebody else, I don't know what you do with Izzy at that point in time. Like, Izzy had already kind of cleaned out everybody. It was either DDP or Sean, a rematch with Sean Strickland. That's the only person you could fight with, so I'm okay with it because Izzy's pretty much cleaned out everybody else. Who are you going to give him to fight next? Brandon Allen? You know what I mean? Like, that's it. Like that's about the only people that are in the top 5 or 6 there that he hasn't already beaten. Sometimes he beat him 2 times, so that's kind of where we're at. What's your thoughts? Does Izzy, I'm just kind of asking, do you feel like Izzy deserved this title shot?
All right, so just like we said before, it's kind of one of those things where, hold on, I'll be right back. Gotta go grab the door. Hold on, 2 seconds.
All right, well, anyway, he'll come back.
Yeah.
Do you got anything to add? What I was thinking? Because what do you do if you're not going to give Izzy a title shot? I don't know what you do with him.
And that's why at the end of the day, I don't have a problem with it because, like, a big part of it is the time Izzy took off with the layoff and stuff like that. So, they probably would have given him whoever was the current champion. I don't think it's too unheard of to be like, you'll get the next shot whenever you come back. I mean, he did defend it quite a bit. I do see the other coin and people getting upset about it. But at the same time, like you said, what else are you going to do with him? He's put on the size, but I think him going up to 205 is ridiculous. So
I don't like that at all. If they do him and Piera at 205, I would put all my money on Alex.
And I mean, they're not going to do like him versus Whitaker again. So the only thing I would have said is if they did so. Okay, in an imaginary world, let's say Chimaev actually showed up and fought Robert Whitaker, and that fight happened. Yeah. They made the winner of that fight Dricus. Then, like, the matchup I wanted to see Izzy the most was versus Strickland again. I don't give a shit that he doesn't have the title. I want to see that fight again because I want to see if he has the same success. A lot of people are like, oh, Izzy had the DUI, and people were talking to him on the internet. And, all that stuff is nonsense. These guys are cage fighters, You think they that can have an effect. But, like, realistically, Strickland was the better man that night. Izzy, acknowledged that completely. And Dricus even acknowledged that after he fought Strickland. He thought it was going to be a walk in the park. And he realized, oh, shit, I'm having trouble hitting this guy. He originally had the opinion, oh, Izzy just had an off night. And he completely changed that opinion after fighting Strickland. So, To long
Yeah, I mean,
answer the question, that's where I'm at.
I think it can be in that you look back at that. I don't feel like that was the best Izzy that we've seen. And that might have been the best Sean Strickland we've seen for sure. I mean, Sean almost got him out in the first round.
Yeah. Well, that's what people are forgetting. Yeah, he knocked him down, and then when he got him up against the cage, he was very cautiously putting it on him. Izzy was waiting for him to like move back so he could load up and try to do what he did to Pereira, and Sean did not take that bait. And that's the main reason I don't think Izzy was right the next 4 rounds. You know, I think he got hit 36 times in that first round, and 26 of those punches were after the knockdown. So, like, all that pressure came on. That's going to, you know, knock up the head.
And the fact that I think it would have been different, too, if it was like a quick knockout in the first round, you view that fight a little bit differently. But Sean won that fight from bell to bell. From like, I think Izzy won 1 round in that whole 5-round fight. Yeah. Like, it's insane. But yeah, Whit, I was just kind of asking before we start breaking this card, what's your thoughts on Izzy getting the title fight?
Yeah, I was right on there. I'm pretty much with you guys on the same thing as if the word deserve in MMA is kind of like tricky. You know, he put in the work prior to him having that loss with Sean Strickland. Agreed. The match itself was somewhat one of those where I was not impressed enough to say, okay, the next thing he does is have a title shot. That's the truth. But for what it's worth, and I think Bikins, when I right before you talked to me a minute ago, the buildup for what was at the time like the reign of the quote unquote African champs, right? Where it was Usman, Adesanya, and Francis and Ngannou, right? So now we slide in the other African champ, and now we got something to talk about. And I think to a degree, it was like, you know, it was like almost storylining it. You know what I'm saying? It was built to have more meaning than what it does right now. But somehow, some way, I think like this is the right answer to the question is just to put Izzy in the ring one more time. And I was listening to Bobby give his take on the scoring, you know, and how Israel was going about the fight itself. I think that somehow, some way, he's transformed his fighting style to be more acceptive and exciting. So the perception is oftentimes, if you're going to beat Izzy, you are going to beat him just like Sean Strickland did. You know what I'm saying? Not like, you know, Alex Pereira, who was in a position to win, but did not take full advantage of it and went too far and got caught and got slept. Sean Strickland came in there with a fight plan that worked to a T, and somehow, some way, in the end, you know what I'm saying, the exciting comeback never happened, never came to fruition for Izzy. Now, in this one, I'm interested to see how Drake is, you know, kind of what's a good word? Kind of eliminates what Izzy is good at. The last, you know, we saw Bilal fight what?
Leon.
Leon about 2 weeks ago. Yeah. In my mind, the thing that Bilal did was immediately negate Leon's whole faction of, I'm going to use my length, I'm going to use my hands, we're going to stand and bang. Drickus has that same type of wrestling prowess, and it can make this fight boring, but still give him the ability to win on points. Somehow, some way, I think that is what they wanted, instead of saying, let's see what him and Sean do again, now that they both aren't the champion. Do you guys see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, no, totally. I get why they did it for sure. It makes sense.
Yeah. It does make sense, and we'll get to our picks here, and we'll break that down just a little bit. But let's start off on the main event here. The return. So every fight on this card, a fighter has taken like almost a year off. I didn't realize the Leech, Li Jiliang, has been gone for 2 years. The last time he fought was Hamzat Chimaev in a fight that he wasn't supposed to fight. Poor Leech. That was the Leech's. Remember, if you guys remember, he had the nice fresh suit. And he was going to fight. Or he was supposed to fight. I think he was supposed to fight. Not Hamzat. He did fight Hamzat, but he fought D-Rod.
Yeah,
but he was
had a weird
fight.
He had a weird fight cancellation though, didn't he?
Something happened.
I can't remember.
I'm not remembering.
It's been 2 years though since he fought him. Remember, he was supposed to fight. Oh, he was supposed to fight Kevin Holland, I believe, and then they had to switch everybody up because Hamzat missed weight, and then he ended up fighting D-Rod in a close fight, and the Leech lost. But we haven't seen the Leech in 2 years. In his last, he's 19-8. He is the underdog in this fight. He's plus 280. The Leech's last fights, he has lost one, lost. So take that for what it's worth. And then he is taking on a newcomer in the UFC. He's 3-0. Carlos Prates. Is it Prates? And Prates is minus 380 heavy favorite at night. He's an overall 19-6, but 3-0 in the UFC. With who you like in this one?
You know, this is one of those I was looking at prior to us getting on, and Prates has actually put on some decent fights. I found some old stuff from a previous promotion that he was in. And he actually puts on pretty exciting fights, to be honest. Somewhere in here, when you think about coming in here with Lee, I find this very intriguing because, especially when the UFC fight makers get to, doing that evil genius thing, and then somebody somehow, some way figures out a way to throw a roadblock into you coming back. In real life, that could be exactly what an unknown or a lesser known Prates is in this manner. Of course, Lee, somehow, some way, we got a chance to see him be great, but not fully, put on what I think would be somewhat comparable to his best performance. In my mind, this would be his opportunity. It's on a great fight card. It's on, it's in a place where we're all going to see. It's not fight night. It's not the Apex. Shout out to Bikins hating the Apex. This could be where he realizes his potential. But I feel like this is a big roadblock where you get one of these guys that are hungry from a smaller, lesser known promotion. He's Brazilian. He's a striker. I'm kind of looking at Prate for this one, to be honest.
You like Prates? All right. Bobby, what about you? Who you like here?
I wish I could make this pick after the press conference because I have not seen Lee's suit yet. And
yeah,
before I broke that fight down, ironically, I didn't even look at the betting line. I didn't know Lee was that much of a dog. My original thoughts on it were this might be. How do you say the other dude's last name?
Carlos Prates. Prates.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is like one of his first
maybe it's Prates. Maybe it's Prates in Brazilian, but it's Prates. So to me, I mean, a honky from Missouri, it's Prates.
To my knowledge, this is his first fight out of the Apex. I'm not sure if that's even correct because, unfortunately, all that stuff is extremely forgettable, like last Saturday's card. But he's only had it's both. Well, he was actually, I take that back. He was on the last time he fought was in Louisville when the Cannonier Imanov fight. He was on that card, which was just back in June. So quick turnaround here for him. No, that was St. Louis. Oh, that's okay. So he's got a crowd. I mean, my thinking in it was, how is he gonna shine in this moment? According to the betting odds, they think he's gonna beat the shit out of Lee. Yeah. I don't know. Call me a sucker for a clean suit, but I got Lee in this one.
I'm kind of with you, Bobby. Prates is so he's only had really. I mean, he got a contract in Dana White's Contender Series. Then he fought Gills in February of this year. So this is his third fight. So he's been pretty active. He was on the Hermanson Pfeiffer card earlier in February. Then he was on the June card. So kind of a quick turnaround here for him, like a 2-month, right back into it. But I mean, he didn't take no damage. Finished Radke in the first round.
That explains the
Leech
line better too. That he's been that active.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense. Why he's like a 3-1 favorite.
Yeah, and the Leech hasn't fought in 2 years. You know what? I said this before though. The Leech loss, win, loss, win, loss. He's due for a win, baby. Give me the hammer. Give me the Leech, baby. We're all in on the Leech. Come on, guy.
All right, now I got something to throw out there. Shout out to Tapology, one of the sites I oftentimes go to for my MMA information. So we got Prates, as if I was Western Missouri
Rock Days. It's probably the Rock Days in Brazilian, but again, I'm a honky from Missouri.
So he's got 7 TKOs in the first round, 6 TKOs in the second, and 1 in the third. 74% of his wins are knockouts. Then he's got 3 wins and 3 losses by submission, and he's got some subs in the first. Pretty much 1 sub in each of the 3 rounds. First round, second round, third round. It looks pretty much as if this is the one that might upset the apple cart for for Lee. But hey, man, I'm excited to see this one definitely for sure. But I don't know, man. I kind of don't. I hate seeing those guys come from these lower known, lesser known promotions, and everybody thinking it's going to be an easy run through. So I'm going with Price.
The betting odds say it's not. The betting's you're betting on the favorite,
right?
So let's get into the next one. It is the heavyweights here. It is the return of the number 10 heavyweight Tai Tuivasa. Tai's on a 4-fight losing streak. He's 15-7. Tai is the dog at plus 180, and he is taking on none other than Biggie Boy Jairzinho Rozenstruik, the number 12 ranked heavyweight. Jairzinho's 14-5. Jairzinho's the pretty decent favorite here at minus 220. Jairzinho won his last time out. He's won 2 of his last 3 fights. We'll start with you on this one. Who you like and why?
Okay, so once again, this is a crazy one for me because everybody likes Tai Tuivasa. Is he going to do the shoey when he wins? What's going to happen? So on and so forth. But for me, just thought process. You want to take my heart out of this one. Use my brain. Rozenstruik is coming back, and I think he's out for blood this time. There's only a few heavyweights that make noise from time to time, and then they get on a nice little run. But I think that was Gaziv. He beat Gaziv. That was in March, and then somehow, some way in the past 1, 2, 3 fights, he's going 2 for 1. You know what I mean? Well, 1 and 2 basically out of the last 3 fights. I think this one is one of the ones he catches a little bit more speed on. I love Tai Tuivasa. I think this is going to end up being one of those stand and bang fights. But I want to see if Rozenstruik can give us a little bit more of that somehow, some of that wrestling that we saw it when he first started his career, which was really, really how he was getting a lot of those wins. But if he can pull this off, maybe he can start to creep up a little higher. Because I mean, Rozenstruik was pretty dangerous until he got knocked out multiple times, in my opinion. So I'm going Rozenstruik to see if he can go ahead and get back on the right track.
Bobby, what about you? Who you like here?
Yeah, I'm with Whit. I got Biggie Boy too on this. I just think it's not an ideal matchup for Tai. At the same time, maybe if he can get in close, Tai might be able to have some success. But I think it's a tough fight for Tuivasa. So I'm pretty much in lockstep with Witt there on that one.
So before Ty's 4-fight losing streak, he was on a 5-fight winning streak. So there's that. And before that 5-fight winning streak, guess what? He was on a 3-fight losing streak. So that just shows you that's the heavyweights for you. First of all, up and down on the 4-fight losing streak. Ciryl Gane. There's no shame in losing to Ciryl Gane. Sergey Pavlovich, no real, Alexander Volkov there's no shame in losing to him either right now. He's on the run. Now, Marcin Tybura, that's a little question mark, right? Like probably should have beat him. But you know what? My dog on the card. It's shoey time, baby. My dog at plus money. Give me at plus 180. My dog on the card. I'm riding with Tai Tuivasa, baby. Let's go. Bam, bam. I'm doing shoeys on Saturday night because I'm betting on the dog Tai Tuivasa. My dog on Saturday night.
Hit the music. Now, I'm not gonna lie. In any other case, I think that Tuivasa is a better striker than Rosenstrike. Rosenstrike is known for really taking wild swings, which take longer times to connect.
Both of them.
And this one, this is almost like a stalemate. But if Rosenstrike incorporates some of that grappling that he used to do, some of that wrestling that he's really actually pretty good at, I like Biggie Boy. But I can understand why you would pick this. Besides doing shoeys, which I know you can do, and you'll probably put on like Snapchat.
I've always said if Tai Tuivasa wins the title, I will do a shoey out of my own shoe, but that's it.
Hey, listen, I will do a shoe out of my shoe. Wins the title, but definitely, man, I'm going with Biggie Boy on this one for the W, bro.
I forgot to leave out was it is the perfect environment for him. It's not the shitty ass Apex. It's in the hometown, so he can at least vibe off that and everything. But it's still I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
So you can get Ty at plus money for knockout at plus 240. That's pretty good.
That's wild. Like that should be the money line then, because if he win, what's him to win by decision?
Points plus 900.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
This is ESPN bet, so that's what I'm using.
If you're gonna play Ty, I would probably say take that extra juice and play the knockout.
Play the knockout and go the 280.
Oh, sure.
All right.
Because that's to me both. That's how either one's gonna win, especially Ty. I don't think Jorginho is gonna win by points or anything. I would also take the unders at minus 2.5 minus 1.5 rounds. I'd probably take the under at minus 200, but the over is plus 160 on the 1.5. But yeah, I just looked at it. I was like, oh, Ty for knockout plus 240. Yeah, give me that. Give me if you're gonna, you know what I mean. So
look, when you say that plus 240, bro, I don't know.
I bet that. That's worth, like Bobby said, that's worth the juice to Ty plus 240. Like,
that should be the money line.
Yeah,
I mean,
if you're willing to bet Ty at plus 180 on the money line, you might as well just go ahead and spend that money on the Ty knockout at plus 280. You're going to make more money.
Yeah.
Time for the knockout. Give me that money, baby.
So, Rob says, fade the shoe. Fade the shoe. No, we're not fading. We're not fading. Here is my I think this is going to be fight of the night, this next one. It's in the lightweight division. You got Gamrot 24-2. Gamrot's on a 3-fight winning streak. He is the pretty good size favorite here at minus 350, and he's taking on the forever always tough Dan Hooker. To this day and for the rest of my life, I still won't know how Dan Hooker took a leg kick from Jalen Turner and just ate it and kept fucking moving. Broke his jaw and kept fucking moving. That was the last time we saw Dan Hooker, obviously for reasons. But Dan is always tough. He is. He's coming off his own 2-fight winning streak. We haven't seen him since that Dan Hooker fight, and that's been over a year. Dan is 23-12. He is plus money at plus 265. Bobby, we'll start with you. Who you like? This is my pick for the fight of the night. I think this fight is going to be fun.
Yeah, no, this should be guaranteed fireworks. I mean, I don't really see a scenario. Like, this is probably the closest we'll get to Hooker Poirier 2.
Yeah.
And, you know, we all know what kind of fight that was. But like that fight, you know, Dan Hooker's a lot different of a guy in that. So, you know, the layoff did him good. He looks like he's in pretty decent shape, aside from his strange tattoo choice, you know, but that really has nothing to do with the fight. You know, I personally think the line is somewhat justified, but at the same time, when you look at it, you're like, ooh, that could be a little bit of a higher number with him, especially being in Australia and everything. But I have Gamrot winning that fight. I do think it will be a war, though. I don't think it's just going to be like some one-sided beating. But, you know, I most likely have Gamrot winning that by decision, probably.
I did too. Over-under, the over-under on that's 2.5. I think it goes the distance. Both those guys are just too fucking tough.
Man, oh gosh. It's very rare that we kind of all on the same page, you know what I mean? And that kind of makes me feel like I should go the other way, you know what I'm saying? What I'm thinking about. Somewhere in here, like I really want to see Dan Hooker succeed. Like you said, man, taking the leg kick from Jalen Turner, rocking through the broke jaw, and coming back, you know, after a long recovery. One of those things that me and Bakins have talked about on the show before is that ring rust is real. You know what I mean? And somehow, some way, you incur it no matter what you do, how much you practice, where it goes, bring yourself back to reality. You're back in the ring with somebody really good, and Gamrot is that person. I really feel like Gamrot is going to take this. And this is another one. I don't want to like think with my heart and say, you know, Dan Hooker on the comeback tour, but I got to think with my brain, and I'm definitely going Gamrot on this one.
Yeah, we all agree here for the first time on this card. I like Gamrot. I think it goes the distance. I like Gamrot by decision. Dan Hooker's tough, but I think Gamrot's right there. And I proposed this question earlier. Gamrot has a win over Sarukian in a very close fight a couple years ago back in the, you know, prime Apex era. And I think if Sarukian wins the title,
I love how you said that with a straight face.
And I think if Sarukian gets the title, it could be the interim title, could be the lightweight title, the real title if he beats Islam. Set up him and Gamrot. If Gamrot's right, Gamrot is 5. You know, you could justify a title shot with Gamrot and Sarukian right off the get, because Sarukian probably wants to get that one back, much as a la Cheeto and O'Malley type.
I definitely dig it on that one.
Gamrot's got to beat the forever game, tough Dan Hooker, and I'm riding with Gamrot too. So we're all on first. That's the first one we all got together on Gamrot. Let's get to the co-main event. Another guy we haven't seen in a while is the number 4 ranked flyweight, and that's Kai Car-France. We haven't seen Kai Car-France in over a year. He's coming off a 2-loss win streak. Our fight streak, was it 2 years ago we saw him? Or last time we saw him was, June 3rd of 2023. So over a year.
He's pulled out of a few fights, I think.
Yeah, he was supposed to fight the last time in Australia and pulled out.
Yeah, he pulled out.
But, due to some injuries, but he's back now. He is taking on the guy who just fought for the title, and that's Steve Carell Ursig, 12-2. Kai Car France is the dog on this card at plus 133. Steve is the favorite at minus 160. You got Australian versus New Zealand here. Bobby, we'll start with you. Who you like here in the co-main event?
It's a pretty tight fight. As far as the betting line and stuff, they have it. It sounds pretty justifiable there. I do think we could see a Kai Car France kind of resurgence. He could possibly, get a good victory there and easily get catapulted to maybe a title shot or something. However, I don't know. I just think everyone overlooks Urseg a little bit. I personally had him winning the Pantoja fight. So, like, I'm taking Steve Urseg in that one. I think it's a good, hometown experience for him. He seems pretty good for the moment. I do think that is also a sleeper for a possible fight of the night. Because, those 125ers can go for a while, or, as we've seen with Urseg in the past, it could be a short night. But I think that fight's about as right down the middle as you can get. It's cool that Izzy got all the city kickboxing guys on the card with him. Say what you want about him. He always still looks out for his boys in the end. So, that's cool to see. But I don't know. City kickboxing also seems like they're going to have a good opportunity and make me look stupid because I'm going with Urseg.
Yeah, man. Crazy.
Wit.
You kind of stole my thunder there, Bobby, but you my boy, so you got this one. I'm gonna say it like this. I remember watching that Pantoja fight and being like, this is a little even, even though they scored it for a unanimous decision. I really felt like they didn't give Urseg enough credit for coming in and putting on that much of a performance to keep up with a champ like Pantoja. It makes me look at the idea that Kai Car France, although a great fighter, although somebody to keep our eye on, coming off of what is it? Albazi. I know he just beat him and then he lost to Moreno. All right, and then Oscar.
The Albies fight is what real was split down the decision too. Like most people had Kai Car France winning that fight. If you remember, there's like Izzy and a bunch of people were pissed off that Kai lost that fight. That the judges scored the other way.
That's what I was just about to say. That it was a split, but it was so close for Kai Car France to not pull that off. I really am in my mind going, this is the fight that catapults Urseg into a more serious conversation, closer to the top of the rankings, where somewhere in there, and just like you said, Bobby made it clear, dog. These small 125, these boys they're known to go at it for these 3-4 rounds, and I'm really expecting this one to be. I know we said which one we say was possibly fight of the night, the Lee fight. I think this one.
No, the Gamrot Dan Hooker.
Gamrot fight. I think this one has potential fight of the night honors on it. And I'm, as I look back once again, big shouts out to Tapology.com. These subs for Urseg, 50%. I don't know, man. We get them on the ground. We get Kai Car and we get Urseg somewhere, tussling, doing that hand fight, man. It's a scary deal. But at the same time, I do recall that his stand-up game is worth paying attention to. So I really think I want to go with Urseg on this one, even though once again the mind gotta go with it, but the heart doesn't. But I'm rocking with Urseg. Shout out to him, and hopefully he gets where he wants to go.
Yeah, this is a second fight. I'm kind of with you guys. I can't. Steve, The Office is my favorite show, so I got to go with Steve Carell Urseg on this one to win. I don't really know why. I just feel it. Like I don't know. I'm just not a fan of Kai Car France, really. And maybe that's it. Whatever. I can't really
you
tell
like
you
that,
why.
Frank.
I think I don't know. I don't know. Yeah,
You don't like it when he does that?
Yeah. Get out of here, you little midget. Trying to scare some people. I'm going to go with Steve Erceg on this one. I like the Astro Boy. So give me the Astro Boy. I'm going to go Astro Boy by knockout. So I hope he knocks him out. Let's get into it. It is time for the main event, folks. We talked about it at the top a little bit. But it is, again, the middleweight champ, Dricus du Plessis. They say you get 30% better when you're just having the belt. This is his first title defense, and he is taking on none other than his rival, I guess you could say, in Israel Adesanya. DDP is, I got this. ESPN Bet has it pretty much split. DDP's got minus 105, Israel's minus 115. So the money's come in. I think Israel opened up as the dog on this card, so the money's came in on him. DDP is 21-2, is not lost yet in the UFC. Izzy is 24-3. We do know, like I said, his last lost his last 3 fights. Bobby, we'll start with you. Who do you like in this main event here?
I mean, just breaking it down, it's very intriguing. Before we started, I was telling you I wasn't really sure where the hype factor was at until I started actually kind of dissecting it and breaking everything down. And especially so take the Sean Strickland fight, okay? And throw out the fact that I think Strickland won the fight. It's irrelevant in this scenario. DDP was very good at playing Strickland's game. Almost, I undoubtedly say he was better at playing it than Izzy was. I mean, he was able He was able to keep moving forward. He was not hitting him in the beginning. He didn't get frustrated, and he ended up landing his shots. The reason I find that interesting is, Dricus has different striking than Strickland does. Strickland's just more kind of going to hit you with those jabs and stuff, to where Dricus will kind of throw the crazy overhands and all that and do a lot of stuff like moving with the awkward movement. So I do think it's really intriguing. On the second part of that, Izzy looks fantastic as far as his physique and everything. I think this is the ideal way that he probably should have been when he went up to 205 to fight Jan. Like, if he kind of had a little bit of a bigger frame and stuff, it probably would have served him a little bit better. I think Izzy put on that size in hope of adding a little bit more power to his game, because I do think really the only way Izzy can get out of this is to finish him. I don't know if he's going to have the success of being able to stay on the outside like typical Izzy fashion. There's also the layoff to take into advantage. I think it's a very good thing. At the same time, we don't know where it's going to be in that first round. I think Izzy needs to come out kind of putting a little bit more pressure than he normally would. Whether or not he's going to do that, I'm not really sure, but I do think Dricus is going to implement his wrestling a lot more in this. I do think this is going to probably end up coming down to the scale. Like, if I wasn't making a pick tonight, I'd probably be waiting for tomorrow to seeing them weigh in and stuff. I'm interested to see like how Izzy, takes the weight off and all that. But I've gone back and forth on this all week, and I think I still have Dricus being able to itch out a decision in victory. But if Izzy's going to win, I could easily see him maybe putting Dricus out in the second or third round. But I think it's going to get very interesting when the fight goes on longer. And who knows, maybe crazy Izzy shows up and we get like Paulo Costa style Izzy and he just moves forward. But I think Dricus is prepared for that. So can't wait for it. It's going to be a great fucking fight.
It is. It is. Wait, your thoughts are here on the main event. So you got and still, Bobby.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I keep going back and forth on it, but with how I think it's going to play out, I legitimately think Drekis is probably more likely there. But you know, I just noticed that I went 0-3 on City Kickboxing, so I'm sure they'll love to make me look stupid. So we'll see, though.
Amen to that. Go ahead, Whit.
First of all, the crows are calling. Okay. Somewhere out here in real life, I feel like we are getting a more determined Israel Adesanya. I don't. You know, we watch a lot of we are all, you know, casual fans. We watch the fights, we see the stuff go on, we watch the pressers, and
Well, we're not
somewhere
casual fans. Casuals tune in every once in a while. We watch
we're
shit
more,
every weekend.
we're more casual fans, but other people, let's say, are. The casual fan, I think that they don't understand the idea of, and I'm sure we, you know, Bobby Bodkins, there is something that makes you want to get up and push just a little harder to do something sometime. In my mind, I think that Israel Adesanya was not excited about fighting Sean Strickland. I think that he was excited about fighting Alex Pereira. I think that now not having the belt and somewhat having, and this is just, you know, just me, okay? I think that somehow, some way, having to think about reclaiming the title, representing what once was, like I mentioned earlier, that Usman, Ngannou, and Adesanya, you know, African King, whatever they think they was doing at one point in time, somehow, some way, is in his mind, and he wants that back. I think that's what makes him get up in the morning. John Jones does not get excited for certain fights, but he got excited to fight Daniel Cormier. I think that this is one of those moments where we get to see the old Izzy, but not necessarily a pressure fighter Izzy, just a more skillful, careful Izzy. I personally will say this: if it goes all 5 rounds, Drickus wins based on points and being smart and being cautious. But if he slips in any way, shape, or form, this is one that I gotta go with Israel Adesanya. Now, I know it sounds like I'm doing a little bit of waffling. I know it sounds like I'm giving you guys both. So I'm just going to say this.
We're going to go and new instead of and still. And I'm just going to go ahead and rock out with Izzy on this one. And yeah, it hurts my heart to think that somehow, some way I'm going to lose based on the idea that Drickers could get him in 5 rounds. But I'm going to go ahead and rock with Izzy and say we're going to get and
new instead of and still. Shout out to Bodkins for that.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys made some good points here. The one thing, like Bobby, you mentioned DDP comes forward. He's a forward pusher, and he comes at you with like this, like tank style, like just, you know, you're like, man, this guy's going to get gassed out, and he just somehow still can go all 5 rounds. We've seen it, and he keeps pushing throughout. He has a heavy pace, and he's so big. Izzy has put on weight and put on a lot of muscle from what the pictures we've seen. Looks like he's in great shape. He's taken the year off. Izzy is a sniper. I mean, he is an absolute sniper. I was looking at the Izzy's 35, DDP's 30, like the age, like I think it's more in the younger, the lower weight class where if you're like 38 or 36, what is it, 36 and older, they're like 0-7 in title fights. So
the 36
I don't really know if that.
rule.
Yeah. I don't know if that compares to the upper class. I don't think, obviously, because Randy Couture is like 50 when he won a title. So, man, it's interesting. DDP is when he is hungry like this, he is so fucking good. We saw it in the second Pierre fight. Like when contender Izzy is just different. You know, I hate to say that, but it is. DDP is really good. I want to see the Izzy Sean Strickland too. I wouldn't mind seeing DDP Izzy too, or DDP and Sean too. They've said Sean is next. I'm really torn on this. I told you guys before the show, an hour before the show, my wife asked me who am I picking. I said I have no idea. And she asked me why, and I said I gave her all the points on why you could pick Izzy, why you could pick DDP, just as we did here.
I got one thing to add before you make your pick.
Yeah.
To see it. So, all of this stuff that happened to like promote the fight originally, I do feel like Izzy is holding on to that a lot more than Dricus is. And like
agreed.
Seems hungry off the aspect of I am the champion. I'm going to defend my title. I'm going to keep getting better. And Izzy keeps mentioning this thing. And obviously, you know, he has every right to if he felt slighted by it. But the way he's like leading in with it and stuff, I almost wonder, because like Whit said about, he wasn't taking, you know, Sean Strickland seriously. Is this the fuel that Izzy is using to try to hype himself up? And if it is, I think that's a dangerous game because Dricus don't need.
Well, I think that's what he needs. That's what I think he does better when he finds that motivation. You mentioned the Paulo Costa fight. There was something about Paulo Costa he just could not stand, and he waxed him. I mean, beat him down, and I think that's the thing. I do worry that this fight could sort of be a snooze fest a la Yoel Romero and Izzy. Just if DDP doesn't push forward, or even Izzy and Jared Cannonier, like DDP's got to push forward. I think this could be kind of a snooze type fest.
And that's why I think it's very probable that DDP could get knocked out because he's going to have to push forward. Because I don't see him letting Izzy just fight on the outside. So, I mean, the betting line is really all you need to know. It's right down the middle for a reason.
I'm with you on that one.
It is.
I'm definitely thinking something similar, but I know I said Izzy, and I'm sticking with it. The thing is, the way that Dricus wins this fight is if he negates Izzy striking and just goes, I'm going to make it ugly, and we're going to wrestle the whole match. And, of course, Izzy's been really good with, you know, guarding himself from takedowns in the past. But this, and to a degree, and, you know, Dricus has said this, you know, this African wrestling, South African wrestling is different. It's very similar to what you see with the Dagestani guys and stuff, and they make it extremely annoying by just getting on your back and peppering you the whole time. So I'm interested to see what technique Dricus uses to win this fight. Is he going to go straight in and try and take him out? Is he going to take his time, let Izzy make a move, and then basically pummel him, wrestle him, keep him on the ground, maybe keep him on his back as long as possible, and have it be a position fight, which will make it boring. But you have to find a way to win to keep the, you know what I'm saying? You have to find a way to keep the belt rather than lose it if you're the champ. You know what I mean? How do you keep the belt? By not doing something stupid and having Israel knock you out, which will make it, which to me sounds like he's going to wrestle the shit out of him.
Let me ask you this before I make my pick. Bob, you might know it because off the top of my head, I can't think of somebody. Has anybody won the title 3 different times? A title 3 different times?
I know not at not at middleweight, because I think that's one of the stats they're saying is that if Izzy wins, he'll be the first to win the title 3 times at middleweight. if you know, Couture was a multi champion, like multi weight class champion. So I don't know if that really counts.
Yeah.
But I do believe, I know he'll be the first at middleweight for sure, because you know
Middleweight.
Silva never got it back after, you know, the Weidman
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
yeah, and yeah, I mean it's why I'm like, and one other thing I forgot to mention, because like I know like a lot of it might sound like I'm shitting on Izzy. I have to give Izzy credit for calling out that bullshit of them editing the clip at the press conference of him talking about
yeah.
when he felt Drekis disrespected
Francis.
him, and he mentioned Francis Ngannou, Usman, and himself. And then on the embedded, they clipped out Francis. And Izzy, with
Yeah.
an ESPN microphone in his hand on camera, straight up said, like, you cannot erase him from the history. There are very few fighters that can do
Motivation,
that,
my brother.
and Izzy is one of them. So,
Yeah.
like, it was good to see that, because that was pretty wild. I know you guys don't watch the Apex, but last week they had the first fighter out of Cameroon, or we know that's a
Oh
lie.
yeah, I saw that. I saw the clip out of that. Yeah,
Yeah. It's obviously just blatant trolling at this point, but you know, at least you got guys like that still willing to speak up, because that was wild.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
when you mentioned that, that's exactly what I mean by, I think he has to find things to motivate him in order to do what he does best, and little things like that type of trolling, put the battery Israel Adesanya's back, and have him, you know, do what he does best. He has to be in the mood, and I think this fight, for numerous reasons, gets him in the mood, and he's going to do what seems to be what he does best when he's motivated.
Yeah. I'm gonna go and new UFC middleweight champion of the world, Israel, the last stop, Adesanya.
We like it.
That's who's winning. It's and new. Real quick before we got out of here, Bobby, is there any fights on the prelims that you got your eye on?
Shit. Yeah, pull up the what was it? The what was that fight I was talking to you about before? Pull up the thing. I don't have the card in front of me.
Yeah, I got you. So on the prelims,
it was the minus 1,200 or the minus 1,600.
Yeah, the Alex Reyes, Tom Nolan.
Nolan, Alex Reyes. Yeah.
So that fight should be pretty dope. You know, that O'Neal fight is a pretty cool matchup too. I like how they built the prelims with all local people and stuff. So you know that building is going to be popping the entire time. So I mean, it will be a nice change up from the death of the Apex, and
even Manchester or whatever the hell they were, fighting at. Now they're fighting at like 7 a.m. In Australia time, but I'd rather fight at 7 a.m. than having to stay up till 2 a.m.
Hey, I was loud as a motherfucker when that card was going down. So, I mean, I made noise for them. I mean, I don't blame them. It was quiet, you know, and that was, they got to see Tommy do his thing. So they still got smiles.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Wait, before we get out of here, you got anything to add before we get out of here?
Nah, this week, man. Whenever you get some time, if you guys got a minute, check us out on our mid-season finale of LTS in the Hoop. We will be concluding this basketball season by discussing the gold medal games for Team USA women's and men's. Was this the best Steph Curry moment we've ever seen in a basketball game? Is it a possibility that, you know, somehow, some way, there's going to be some players that we can't even think of or fathom in 2028 when the games go to LA? And of course, we're gonna try and play a little bit of matchmaking, because the NBA schedule for 2024-25 comes out tomorrow on ESPN. So we're gonna pick some of our favorite games. So MMA is happening, basketball is ending, and football will pick up even more. So I'm excited, man. Definitely excited. And kids are gonna be kids, apparently. That's always gonna happen.
Yeah. You know it. Botkin's freeze there.
Botkin's. So, ladies and gentlemen, we got Nick Botkin's looking like he might be froze, maybe, but it's all good. So, we were just getting ready to conclude the show. I think, Bobby, you know what I'm saying? You got anything exciting to say that you got going on for the rest of the week? No?
I'm looking forward to the preseason football, as sad as that sounds. But, I mean, realistically, just waiting for regular football to start. And it looks like we've been getting some funny Dana White moments. That press conference, I love those Contender Series press conferences.
What?
You can tell this man actually gives a shit when he's at those things. It is nothing like the post pay-per-view thing where he pretends like he's deaf or something. So, we're going to get some really good moments with that. Contender Series is back. So that is, a good thing to circle on the calendar for Tuesday until football starts up. And I can't wait to get to it. It's going to be an awesome card this weekend.
Well, look, bro, for my brother Botkins, who looks like he had a little bit of router issues, for my guy Bobby Blunts, who loves coming on the show, we're going to have come back and talk about the results from 305. And me, your boy K Witch, Mama's #1 draft pick, man. I think we're going to get up out of here.